everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well. As you can probably tell, I am back in my flat. Cameron and I are finally back in our flat after spending months and months with my family up in the Lake District. It was really good for us to be with family during this crazy 6 months, but we are so happy to finally be back in our own flat. Very pleased to be back in my own living room with my own gorgeous green sofa in my proper filming space. So today we're going to be doing a really fun video. I'm going to be talking about the top 10 worst books I have ever read according to Goodreads. So this video idea was inspired by my friend Jess over at Jess Reads Books. She always has the best video ideas, so fun and inventive, and I wanted to get on this too. I will leave a link to her video down below in the description. You should all definitely go and check it out after watching this. So I went onto my Goodreads and I organised my read shelf by average rating, and today I'm going to be telling you about the 10 lowest books I have read. I just thought this could be fun. It'll be interesting to see what comes up as the lowest rated books I have ever read, what those ratings are, whether they align with my ratings of the books, and how many ratings those books have got. If you guys enjoy this video, please do let me know down below in the comments, and I might do a version of this video talking about the top 10 highest rated books I've ever read. I think that could be really fun. So coming in at number 10, the 10th worst book I have ever read is The Lost Girls of Camp Forevermore by Kim Fu, with an average rating of 3.26. So this novel tells the story of a group of young girls who go to a summer camp somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. When one night on a kayaking trip to a nearby island, the girls become abandoned and get lost. The novel also follows another storyline many years later when the girls are adults and we get to see where their lives have taken them. So this is kind of a meh book for me. I am not massively disappointed or even surprised to see it on this list. It was a book I read a couple of years ago. I was massively looking forward to it at the time, but it just didn't hit right. And honestly, the more time that passes, the less memorable this book is becoming. I really couldn't tell you much about it. I remember that I enjoyed the primary setting. There were a few nice scenes, and overall it did have quite a lot of potential. I liked the idea behind it. I liked the idea of seeing some cool parallels between the girls when they were younger and when they were older, but it just didn't really work. The characters weren't very well thought through. There wasn't much insight here. So yeah, I didn't really love this. I'd probably actually rate it lower than this average rating, probably a 2.5 stars, maybe a 3 at a push. But still, I wouldn't say that it was one of the worst books I have ever read. It didn't offend me. Coming in at number 9 is The Water Cure by Sophie Mackintosh, also coming in at 3.26. Now we're talking. So this book was indeed one of my worst reads of 2018. I deeply disliked this book. This is a feminist dystopian novel that was on the book along list in 2018. Baffling. It explores a world where girls are oppressed and abused and secluded from the rest of society, and we're supposed to be wondering why. I found this book to be at once super basic, boring and predictable, and also deeply maddening. All of the characters in here are so weak. They are all such non-personality stereotypes, and Sophie Mackintosh just didn't do anything with this world. She just jumped on the bandwagon of feminist dystopians but didn't say anything interesting or empowering at all. And don't even get me started on how little faith was put in the reader. I mean, we have a world where all of the women are oppressed and all of the men are pricks, and we still need to call the patriarch of the family king. Fuck off. I do think there were elements of this book that weren't terrible. The writing was sometimes quite nice, but in any case, I really didn't like it, so I'm not mad to see it here. Coming in at number 8 is Nothing Can Hurt You by Nicola May Goldberg, with an average rating of 3.23. This is a literary fiction novel that I read very recently. It is brand brand new, it has only just come out. And to be fair, I do suspect that is probably why it has made it onto this list. It only has around 700 ratings at the moment, and I do think that the more people that read it, the higher the rating will become. Inspired by true events, this novel explores the aftermath of a college student's murder on a campus in the 1990s, and each chapter focuses in on a different character who was in some way connected to the event. Unfortunately, I didn't love this book, but I didn't think it was terrible. There was tons of promise here. I loved the dark, gripping vibes, I loved the structuring, and I really loved the idea of the exploration of gendered violence through a fictionalized spin on real events. But ultimately, I just liked the idea of this book a lot more than the execution, I think. The characters' voices weren't distinct enough to make an impact on me, unfortunately. They just kind of blurred into one. And I didn't find the overall point of this book to be entirely clear. I wasn't really sure on what it was trying to say. So not one of the worst books I've read, but I can't really disagree with the 3-star rating. Coming in at number 7 is Tangerine by Christine Mangan with an average rating of 3.21. Like Camp Forevermore, this is another one of those meh books that I read a couple of years ago. I kind of enjoyed the reading experience, but didn't find anything amazing in it, and now I can barely remember anything about it. It is a literary historical novel with a psychological mystery twist. Set in the 1960s, it follows a woman who moves to Morocco with her new husband, when one day an old roommate of hers turns up on her doorstep, carrying with her some dark past that the two women share. So at the time that I read this book, I was very excited for it. The premise just had me. But unfortunately, basically the only thing that this book did well, in my opinion, was the setting. I really enjoyed being in 1960s Morocco, full of markets and food and smells and colours and people. But everything else about this book was frankly mediocre. The characters weren't brilliant and the plot was weak. I remember that the pacing was really weird. It was trying to build up to some kind of climax, but it came way too soon and everything fell really flat. So again, I would actually rate this one lower than it is coming up here, but I wouldn't say it's one of the worst things I've ever read. I feel pretty indifferent. At number 6 is See What I Have Done by Sarah Schmidt, coming in at a rating of 3.2. So this one I am not happy about. This is a historical novel set in 1802 America, and it is a fictionalized retelling of the Lizzie Borden murders, in which a young girl was put on trial for the brutal murders of her father and stepmother. So I loved this book. It was super mysterious and dark and atmospheric. The writing is such a highlight. It is super descriptive, very visceral. We have a lot of gruesome, decaying imagery and descriptions of oppressive environments. Clearly, I am upset that this is on this list. I think the reason that this might come in rated so lowly is because people may have gone into it expecting a twisty, turny plot, perhaps, which is a totally reasonable thing to expect from the premise of this novel, but this book isn't plot driven at all. It is far more focusing on examining the characters and building up the atmosphere. It's a totally unique novel in that way, so I can definitely see why you may be surprised going into this book. But yes, I found this to be a utterly engrossing, totally all-consuming reading experience with very, very good writing. Whether or not this is your thing, this is not one of the worst things you have ever read, surely. Coming in at number 5 is The Age of Magic by Ben Okri with an average rating of 3.19. So this is a book that I really did not like. It is a literary novel following a group of filmmakers as as they travel from Paris to a Swiss village. This book is supposed to be beautiful and poetic and philosophical, but I found it to be so forced and self-indulgent. It just read to me like an endless stream of quotable philosophical musings that the author wanted you to know he had considered. Absolutely no faith put in the reader at all, which drove me up the wall. There were some good things about this book. Ben Okri is clearly an intelligent man, and he definitely had some good ideas. The writing wasn't bad, it was quite nice at times, some very nice scenery descriptions. The structuring is also quite interesting. It is comprised of very short chapters, which does help add to the sense of journey throughout. But I just couldn't like this novel because of the constant bashing over the head with impressive thoughts. While I did rate this one quite lowly myself, I am quite surprised to see it on this list. Like, Ben Okri is a pretty big deal, isn't he? Perhaps other people also heard that he was a good writer and gave it a go like me, and also just found it odd. Who knows? At number 4 is The Drover's Boy by Irvin Hunt, coming in at 3.17. So I am very sad to see this one make this list, but due to the incredibly low number of ratings that this book has got, 6 to be precise, I can't say that I'm surprised to see it at this rating. This is a novel from a tiny independent publisher up in Cumbria, where I am from. I read this book a few years ago while I was doing some work experience with the publisher one summer between my university years. Set in the old county of Cumberland a century ago, this book follows a young boy called Henry who is ordered by his stepfather to walk 600 geese to market. He does this with an old cantankerous drover, and it just follows these two characters' journeys and the relationship that they build with one another. So I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a really sweet story. I loved following the two main characters and witnessing their hilarious interactions with one another and just seeing their relationship gradually develop. I did of course have a particularly strong connection to the book because I am from where it is set, so I recognised a lot of the references and the setting and the dialect. It all felt very homely to me. So yes, I am sad to see this one on this list. It is not one of the worst books I have ever read. Coming in at number 3 is The Gathering by Anne Onright. This comes in at an average rating of 3.08, and while I was mad about seeing See What I Have Done on this list, this one I am fuming about. Set in Ireland, this is a literary novel that follows the 9 Hegarty siblings who all return to their family home for the wake of their brother Liam. So Anne Onright is a queen. She has not been writing for decades, publishing book after book, winning prestigious literary prizes such as the Booker Prize, to be on my top 10 worst rated books list. This is madness. Honestly, Anne Onright is such a skilled writer. She knows her craft. This book is subtle and perceptive and beautiful. The ways in which Anne Onright explores family relationships in particular is just unparalleled. So realistic and convincing. The fact that this has a 3.08 average rating is baffling to me. I do not understand why it would be rated so low. It won the Booker Prize. Surely people knew what kind of pace they were getting themselves in for when they picked up this book. I just don't know. This can't be right. Coming in at number 2 is Strange Hotel by Emma McBride with an average rating of 3.07. Again, another book that doesn't deserve to be on this list. This is a short literary novel that basically just follows one woman as she goes to many different hotel rooms throughout her life. I am a massive fan of Emma McBride. I think she is such a talented author. I did enjoy this book markedly less than her two other novels, A Girl is a Half-Formed Thing and The Lesser Bohemians. What is so good about Emma McBride is her writing style. She tends to write in a very disjointed stream of consciousness style, defying all grammatical rules. She just really manages to transport you into her characters' minds, so you really viscerally experience whatever they're experiencing. Unfortunately, the writing in this one is much more simple than in the other two. It didn't wow me like the other two did. I did enjoy the setup of this novel. I liked the structuring and focusing in on different snapshots in time. I enjoyed how contemplative and reflective it felt. I really enjoyed witnessing all of the protagonist's musings. But I just didn't fully connect to the protagonist in this one, and I just didn't get from it what I wanted from Emma McBride. So I didn't think this was a bad book, but I also didn't love it. If I had to stab a guess, I would probably say that other people also enjoyed her earlier works like me and then read this one and were disappointed. And finally, coming in at number 1, the worst book I have ever read according to Goodreads is Whistle in the Dark by Emma Healy with an average rating of 3.06. I mean, okay. This one came out a couple of years ago and it follows a 15-year-old girl who goes missing while away on a mother-daughter countryside retreat for the weekend. When she returns a few days later, she is bloodied and bruised and claims that she does not remember anything about the past few days. So yeah, I didn't really like this book. The book explores Lana's family, in particular her mum, in the few months that follow this event as everyone is trying to figure out what happened and just adjust. And this is a really cool idea, but the book just wasn't the intriguing thriller that I thought it would be. There was a kind of reveal moment, but I found it to be pretty disappointing. And overall, this just didn't seem to be the focus of the book. I remember that mental illness was explored quite heavily in the book, and I thought that was handled okay. The family relationships in here were pretty good. It was firmly rooted in modern day, with things such as social media playing a massive role. But yeah, I didn't love this. It was fine, but 2 years on, it has made little to no impression on me. That being said, I am surprised that this is apparently the worst book I have ever read. I would not have guessed that in a million years. It kind of feels to me like the kind of thing that a lot of people would enjoy, but what would I know? So there we have it. Those were the worst rated books that I have ever read. It was quite an interesting list. I am definitely surprised by some of them, not so surprised by other ones. Some I am fuming about. What do you think of this list? Were there some books that you particularly disagree with, or do you agree with some of the ratings? I would love to know. It was so much fun filming this video. I would love to do a version talking about the best rated books I have ever read. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. As always, thank you so much for watching. It really does mean a lot. I hope you're all having really nice weeks, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye everyone.